Unlucky. It's fine. We'll draw one energy Grandmaster, and then next turn we'll go Grandmaster plus Thor. Cool. Beta Ray Bill is a 4-8. Nope, 3-6. Beta Ray Bill 3-6. Yes! Marvel Snap's latest card release in Phastos is here, a 3-3 with the on-reveal effect. Give each card in your deck -1 cost or +2 power. Some notes about how this ability works. The first is that there's no lower bound in the cost that he reduces, so he can make 1 energy cards free. It's also noteworthy that if there are 0 cost cards in your deck, like say a Wasp or a Thor's Hammer, you're not guaranteed to get the +2 on them, so he could apply a useless -1. He also does not uniformly apply the same modifier across all the cards in your deck, so the first card you draw might be -cost, while the second one could be +2. Obviously, you could get multiple of the same in a row, but each card individually gets assigned a 50-50 either cost reduction or power increase. In terms of power level, my initial read on Phastos that he seems like another fantastic B or maybe even B plus power level release that's going to be plenty playable if you enjoy what he has going on, but he's also not going to be a meta game defining or warping card that you have to be competitive. I think a lot of Phastos' strength comes from the hidden information element to what he's doing. Your opponent can know the exact output range of your deck in a conquest match, but not know if Phastos has made your card cheaper or more powerful, making it difficult for them to make an informed decision on when they should be staying against your snaps or retreating on that last turn of the game when the stakes are about to be doubling again. The Phastos decks I personally have been enjoying the most so far is this Thor's Hitmonkey package. The basic idea here is relatively straightforward. We have a bunch of 1 energy cards into our deck that have decent stat lines. Phastos is going to make some of them completely free with his cost reduction, and then Jane Foster is going to draw them up out of our deck, giving us a bunch of completely free things to play in tandem with Hitmonkey on the last turn of the game that only make Monkey massive, but also play out a bunch of reasonable stat lines everywhere else in play. This is a deck that's existed in the past, and Phastos really feels like he fills a hole in it, which was previously when you didn't go Thor into Beta into Jane, you typically didn't have enough gas on the last turn to really make Hitmonkey get large, and Phastos giving us another card that we can play in those middle turns before Jane to ensure that we're hitting big Hitmonkeys feels really good. As far as required higher series cards go in this deck, I think Beta Ray Bill and Hitmonkey are not replaceable. Grandmaster and Elsa, I think, are worth experimenting with, even if you have them. Cards like Mysterio, Bishop, and even Absorbing Man, I think, could be reasonable in these slots once I test them some more. The next Phastos deck that felt very reasonable in my early testing is another Hitmonkey variation, this one featuring Pixie as well. The kind of dream curve in this deck is you play Pixie on turn 2, shuffling a bunch of your costs around, and then you play Phastos on turn 3, reducing them even further, giving you an incredibly high likelihood of having a completely free Iron Man or Valkyrie to surprise your opponent with on the last turn of the game. This deck is doing some objectively strong things, making big numbers with Monkey and Iron Man, while also having just an incredible amount of cube equity because your opponent just doesn't know what your output range is going to be. You mix in a dash of interaction with Mobius and Valkyrie, and that feels quite strong. A noteworthy interaction with Mysterio is that when you Phastos +2 on Mysterio, you actually end up with the original Mysterio providing 6 points of power while each of the clones provide 2, very similarly to how Bast makes all 3 Mysterios have 3-point stat line. As far as higher series substitutions go, Mobius and Hitmonkey are not replaceable in this deck. They're core to making it function at an optimal level, leaving us with Nico Minaru as the one card you can swap out. I think if you're missing her, you want to replace her with another 1 energy card, so that way you have a critical mass of things for Pixie to swap lower costs onto our 5-drop bombs at the top end of our curve. The next angle to consider Phastos deck building from is the inclusion of magic. We obviously get more value out of Phastos the more cards we draw after we play him, so Limbo adding a 7th turn to the game has potential big upside with the swings that he can create. This led me to his inclusion inside of the Circe Clutter deck that I've been enjoying a good deal before Phastos' release. Circe in particular really loves upgrading 3 and 4 energy cards with on reveal effects, so Phastos fits very elegantly into the deck alongside that. This shell was also already playing ways to duplicate its on reveal effects, and there's kind of a Magic Christmas Land scenario where you play Phastos on 3, you Absorbing Man him on 4, you Grandmaster plus play Magic on 5 to have triple Phastos triggers applied to all the cards in your deck, so your final turn of the game goes up, down, all around, rivaling something that even Mr. Negative would be proud of. As far as higher tier substitutions go in this deck, it's a little bit limited because a lot of your cards are filling very specific roles that don't have clear replacements. Jeff the Baby Landshark is replaceable with something like Nightcrawler or Mojo, and Circe could be subbed out for Cannonball as a card that helps you win clogged locations, but our other higher series cards, specifically White Widow, Grandmaster, and Mockingbird, really don't have another card that fills what they're looking to do. Another way we can try and get more out of Phastos' effect is drawing additional cards after his on reveal has happened. The best way to draw extra cards in Marvel Snap is definitely by playing Thanos, since a number of the Infinity Stones have simply draw a card tacked onto them. It's worth noting that this isn't without downside though, because the larger initial starting deck of Thanos also means that we're going to be less likely to play Phastos on curve, but the trade-off is in the games where we do play him on 3, we're likely going to get more use out of him after the fact. There definitely isn't an established best Thanos list after the latest series of changes that the card is gone through, but it's worth noting that builds like this one on your screen that are featuring Scar along with a number of 10 power low cost cards, i.e. Crossbones, Cull Obsidian, and even Thanos himself ramped off of Hope Summers, consistently have had strong metrics on untap even before Phastos released. There's no denying that this deck is definitely chock full of higher series cards by default, but I would go so far as to say Thanos, Scar, and Cull Obsidian are the core ones that are the most important to have the deck operate at efficiency. Hope Summers can be replaced for something like Psylocke to provide additional acceleration. Nocturne, Jeff, and even Mobius and Mobius are just generically good cards that you can play early on curve. You can sub them out for things like Medusa, Lizard, Luke Cage, Red Guardian, etc. that play on curve early for you. Mockingbird's just another big stat stick, as well as Blob, so you could sub them out for things like Vision in the 5 slot, or Red Hulk, Giganto, or even Doctor Doom at the top end of your curve. Finally, I saved the most boring and straightforward deck list for last. Phastos is a 3 energy card, so obviously he slots cleanly into a Silver Surfer shell. I will say I won't be surprised if Phastos ends up being slot optimal in these decks moving forward, because I think the cube equity that he provides is something these Surfer decks have always been hungry for. In the past, it's always been very predictable exactly how many points your Silver Surfer deck is going to output on turn 6 by looking at the board, and Phastos changes the dynamic of that equation entirely, making it both so your cards can be cheaper and have more stats in a way that's difficult for your opponent to keep up with. As far as higher tier substitutions go in this archetype, if you're missing a 3 energy card, play a different 3 energy card. I think Hope Summers is probably the singularly most important 3 energy card in this core, since she allows you to play Silver Surfer alongside Absorbing Man on the last turn of the game to give you a big swing that other cards just don't enable. All in all, Phastos feels like a sweet and playable card, but definitely not a must-have by any means. From a personal enjoyment perspective, I really wasn't expecting him to feel as good in the Hitmonkey shells as he does, and Hitmonkey is definitely a personal pet card of mine, so I've been enjoying Phastos quite a bit. I would love to hear what Phastos decks you've been playing with and against in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed my roundup and breakdown on this card, be sure to snap that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of my other content in the